Welcome back to the 12 valve build. I know we said in the last episode that was going to be the last video on this engine, but we finally got our P-pump in and we felt like that was worth making a video over, getting that thing in time, so we decided to make one more. But we got a few more parts we can bolt on this thing to get it completely sealed up like we want it. So we're gonna go ahead and get that done too. So the astute observer probably noticed that the intake is back off of it. And the reason is, if you noticed in the last video, we had put little bolts in the grid heater holes where the grid heater mounted to seal it up, and we put O-rings behind it, and we weren't really thrilled with that. We put a little bit of RTV in there behind it, and I don't know, it just seemed to get worse the more we tried to seal these holes up, because we're not using a grid heater. So since we didn't like any of that, we pulled it off. I welded the holes up and then just machined them flat again. So it looks pretty decent. There is quite a bit of porosity. This cast aluminum was welding atrociously, but I think I got it all sealed up. So our grid heater's deleted in a little more
presentable.
Yeah, presentable, quote unquote, professional way. I don't think it's gonna leak. So, and it doesn't have bolts. So this thing's ready to go back on. I just put it back in the blast cabinet and re-blasted the area and touched it up with our Hitachi gray. So that turned out to be a good call, I think. So this can go back on. Probably leave the horn off until we get our pump in, but anyway. That's why that's off. And then this, we just whipped up a simple little plug, and this is gonna go in the second turbo drain hole deal. Just cut a couple of grooves in it for O-rings here. This O-ring doesn't have a groove, it's just there to keep dirt and stuff from getting down to this O-ring, so it should stay clean. But these O-rings have grooves cut in them. So that should work pretty good.
All right, so we got our shiny P-pump here.
Yeah, that's what we've been waiting on.
Yep. Of course, this P-pump was rebuilt, went through by power driven.
Yeah, they're a little backed up on pumps right now, so it took a minute.
Yeah, it took several minutes, but got it done. We're happy to have this thing back. So, in this pump, we had them put the 055 delivery valves in, and the governor springs. What is for?
It's got max travel kit in it.
Yeah, max travel kit was for. Did we go 3K or 4K on the governor spring?
It should be 4K. Yeah.
So yeah, so this thing should be good to go. We also verified, because one of the questions we had since look at this beauty.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be, as stated here, custom premium black paint. Well, it's definitely a custom black because there's not much black in it.
Yeah, that sucker is red.
Yeah.
So we may have to go over it with a Scotch-Brite, at least the outside, and shoot a little Hitachi gray on it or something. I don't know. That's a lot of nooks and crannies to try to paint.
Yeah.
It's, you know, then it's going to start peeling off or flaking off, and you're going to end up with this red coming back through. So it may not be worth it.
Unfortunately, I think it's probably going to end up having to stay like it is.
Yeah. I mean, every company's got their own color. I don't mind sporting Power Driven's color. You know, that it's an identifier, if nothing else. You always know where that pump came from. It just doesn't go with our color scheme very well.
Yeah, yeah.
So it kind of is what it is. It'll probably just stay that way, but it's pretty red.
Yep.
So anyway, there's the pump. You know, it looks just like any other. The special bits are on the inside.
Yeah, and what I was going to say a minute ago before we got off on the topic of the paint, you know, is one question we had, you know, when we originally got this in was, you know, making sure that we were set up right on our timing. So this pump from Power Driven is already set at 18 degrees. So with that being said, we shouldn't have to make any adjustments. You know, technically you should be able to line up your timing marks to have number one at top dead center, put this pump in, and that's it. You don't have to advance anything as far as the timing is concerned on the engine.
And that's a Power-driven diesel thing. Any pump you get from them is going to be timed at 18 degrees, so you don't need to add any advance yourself.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. You know, those guys are pretty much on top of every aspect of this stuff. But it's something you got to know. You know, you wouldn't want to get a pump from them not knowing that, and you advance it another 4, 5, 6 degrees, and now you're way advanced.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, we're going to take another swing at this. I think we have everything we need now to start getting this pump in.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So if anybody's wondering why we didn't have a video last week, we realized that just about as soon as we got started that there was no O-ring in the gasket set for this pump, which is, you know, kind of important a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit.
And then another thing we realized is when we were digging around for this return line, we couldn't find it. And then we finally found it, but it was bent all out of shape, is why we thought we didn't have it. We thought that was something else, but.
Yeah.
So we worked on that return line quite a bit, trying to get it bent back into shape, and it was kind of kinked, and we just decided at the end of the day we didn't want to use it. You know, replacement is $100, which ain't cheap, but it's not really something you can just get in there and change out in the future if it happened to crack. So we 86 the old one, we got us a new one, so now we have a return line and an O-ring, so we're going to take another stab at this.
Yeah, hopefully we can get all this done.
Yeah.
So we can start by putting, you know, this stuff that goes on the back side of the pump. Obviously, the Holmes was just talking about, we'll get it put on here, the oil line, and that return line goes here, along with our overflow valve. This one's adjustable, we got from Power Driven.
Yeah, so that just holds more pressure in the pump.
Right. So we'll get this stuff put on, and then we'll actually be ready to stab the pump, I think. And of course, here's our nice shiny new Cummins return line. Definitely much better shape than the old one.
Mm-hmm.
Torque to 24 foot-pounds.
There it is. All right, time to stab this pretty red pump.
There you go.
Yeah, see, it's not hard. It's debatable at this point whether or not it's best to put that return line on before you mount the pump.
Yeah. think it's much of a debate either.
Torque on these was what?
32.
32 foot-pounds. With this setup, I think that number probably goes out the window. Gonna have to improvise a little bit.
How much should we improvise? I got it set on 36.
4 probably do it. All right, well, the professional says 4 foot-pounds will compensate for a wobble. That being said, our extension is a little longer than it needed to be, but it makes a good handle.
All right.
Yeah, so if you guys are doing this, you may want to put this return on last. You have to fight with it maybe a little bit to get it in there.
Like I say, the problem I see with that is getting this in.
Yeah.
Because of the length of it clearing the.
Yeah, it is tight. So you only need the length of the threads if it's already stuck in there,
Yeah, that's true. You might have enough.
but it would be very close. So I don't know. If you guys know, let us know what the order of operations is for this. 'Cause I know we've seen people use long extensions and get those nuts on there, and it doesn't seem to put up much of a fight, but that return line is in the way at almost every turn. So we got it. It is doable either way, I'd say. So they all torque now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got all this stuff cleaned up. I guess we're ready to stick this gear on here. We're not gonna hit it really hard, but we're gonna take a socket and stick it on here over the shaft and just tap it with a rubber mallet or something just to seat that taper. That should be all it really needs. It wasn't pinned. All right, well, we have yet another development. So this is the pin for pin timing a pump. And hopefully you guys can see that this is forked. And there's a little tab that'll show up through this hole, and you slip that in there over that tab, and that locks the cam from being able to turn. And we both 100% expected this thing to be pinned, but it's not. When we pulled it out, we were looking at this blank side, which is shorter, so it just rides in there and everything clears it. So now what we're gonna have to do is pin it, which means we're gonna have to pop the gear back loose, turn the pump until that little flag comes into this hole, and then put this pin back in there and get a hold of that pin. That'll hold the pump, and it should have it exactly 18 degrees. So that's what we're got to do now. Like, we just assumed it was already pinned. We were taking this out so we didn't break it, because this is plastic. So we're gonna have to back up a little bit. Oh, back up a little bit. Oh, too much. A little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit more. Oh. All right. That is what the little flag looks like. So we'll stick the pin back in it. That should be holding the pump right at 18 degrees. And then we can put our gear back on. All right, well, that's pretty snug. So feel pretty good about that gear being seated. Now we're going to pull this pin back out. So you want to break that little plastic sucker off in there. There we go. Now, just simply turn it over, put the fork back in the cap, put it back in there. Slide this back down. There we go. We didn't even tear up our sparkle paint. Now it doesn't really matter if any of these gears turn in relationship to each other. The only thing that matters is the shaft's relationship to that gear. So the gear should be seated, so that shouldn't really be a possibility.
Shouldn't, but.
Shouldn't. Yeah. So I'm going to hold it back up on the crank just so we can get to torque, because it is 122 foot-pounds, which is quite a bit.
All right. You ready?
I reckon. So for this supply line, we're going to do away with the T that used to be here, because it used to feed oil to the vacuum pump. Since we're not running a vacuum pump, we're just going to put a 90 in there. So this is 1/8 pipe to this JIC, and then it's a 90. And we got a little bit of Harvey's on there. That's what we use for most of our threads. Seems pretty good, but it'll tolerate diesel, oil, gasoline, pretty much anything. That ought to hold it.
Okay. All right, so I got our support bracket secure, everything tight. So I think we'll be ready to put our power steering pump in. Let's see, we want this to go like so. This ought to be interesting. Well, maybe we're not putting our power steering pump on, because we need, you can see right here, you can see how much space we got, nothing to work with. Here's your bolt. As you ain't getting that around that housing. So we're gonna have to locate us a stud. Go in there, I guess. All right. So Holmes whipped up a stud for us here, so we can continue on, finally try and get something accomplished. So we'll put this in, some Loctite on it. Put some double, I'm gonna double nut it just so I can snug it down.
Clearing.
Yep. Perfect.
Nice. All right, it's another thing done.
Finally.
Finally checking some stuff off the list.
Yeah.
So now we can put our front cover back on and get this thing sealed back up. But there's a look at our front gear train. Everything's in there finally. We're not going to RTV or use case sealant on this cover just yet, because this engine's still got to sit a while before it's going to get fired up, and we're not 100% confident our assembly lube is going to stay put, because we didn't use a grease type. We used the Amsoil's assembly lube, which is more oily than greasy. Anyway, we're going to modify a oil pump to pre-lube this engine before we fire it up. So we got a cheap pump. Unfortunately, we junked the original one already, but we just got a cheap Amazon Chinese pump. We're going to modify it, so we'll have to pull this drive gear off, and you spin the pump basically with a drill and pre-lube the engine. So we kind of want to do that. Again, not sure if that's 100% necessary, but we both sleep better at night if we do it, so we're going to. So we're going to put the cover back together dry just to keep dirt out, and then once we get it lubed up, we'll glue it. We got the power-driven fuel filter base, which not only look good, but it'll flow more fuel, supposedly.
Allegedly.
That's what they say.
A lot of folks say it though.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Ain't gonna work.
Ain't gonna work.
Mm-mm.
Let me see that. Yeah, never happened. We need some longer tornillos. There we go. Well, fuel lines are built. It's honestly very easy. They suggest using a little oil on these barbs, but we found that oil is not necessary. It's really easy to jam those on there.
I really don't like that too much, but
Probably need to, yeah, turn that one down a little. That's good. You got airspace between them. Looks pretty good. This big old loop will seem more appropriate with our shutdown solenoid in there. Yeah. Okay, so what we came up with for the vent, it's the nicest thing we could come up with, was we got a 3/4 inch pipe to -10, I believe, adapter. We got that screwed in there with some Harveys. And then we've got a 90. They say you want your vent looking up first, so whatever gets by goes back down in there instead of dripping out. And then we've made up a line here. And this is a 180, obviously. So that will just go on here. We've got some nice black braided AN line that's supposed to screw on there. There we go. Just got to hold your mouth right. It's a lot of black. It's hard to see what's what, but think it's a pretty decent setup. You're not really gonna see it, but you know, whoever does will appreciate it, I think. That black line coming down. And it's just open-ended right now. We'll have to figure out how long we need it, and we'll just cut the bottom off wherever. We'll just snip it. We'll let it vent to the atmosphere. So that's it for the vent. Hopefully it'll just lay in here behind the starter. That's yet to be seen. All right, well now we can start getting our injector lines on. I guess we'll start with the return. Got our little banjo bolts all cleaned up. Oh, that's just silly.
Like, oh, it looks like a good spot for it.
Yeah, so you guys might get a kick out of this. If you look at this return line, this is the injector return. This banjo fitting should be right here. Not sure what they were thinking. We went back to the pictures. Bub took a bunch of pictures of this thing, and they had a stud in this hole with this banjo fitting on that stud, just a normal stud. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to say about that. That might be why they had problems getting it running. You know, the injectors had nowhere to return fuel to. So we're gonna have to do a little tweaking on this one. But this obviously should be right there. Tweak it a little bit, and then we'll have to bend that back around over here to the return hole. Because this is going to be in the same place as it was originally. It's just a different filter base. So there's no reason why that shouldn't be pointed right here. All right, that's fuel system complete, mostly.
Mostly. Minus one banjo bolt.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with the banjo bolt for our return line here because we don't want to reuse that stud. Other than that, fuel system's ready to go. Well, if you watched the video where we painted this thing, you already knew that these valve covers were gonna be a different color. If you didn't, you're probably wondering why we still got these grungy old valve covers on here. But I think it's finally time to get our freshly painted valve covers on here so y'all can see what they're gonna look like. This is gonna be a little bit telling too. But I think they came out really good. I think you're gonna like them. And here we go. We have been anxiously waiting to get these put on there. For one, because they are beautiful. And for two, because this is kind of the first reveal of the truck color. This is going to be the main color of the truck, this purdy blue. And we decided to match our valve covers. And there will be some other odds and ends too, but this is just the first thing. So this is y'all's first look at it. It's kind of our first look at it too. We just picked this color a couple weeks ago and got these painted. So it's pretty exciting getting these put on there. Mm-hmm. And we also got us some pretty sweet eBay stainless steel valve cover bolts. Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Purdy. There's one more thing we need to complete our fuel system. That is our filter.
Beautiful.
All right, I guess we'll start getting this water coolant situation sorted out. Just start down here. We got a seal that goes in there. All right, we got to stick a plug in this bottom hole down here. So that's just extra. Not sure what it was originally for, but we don't need it. I don't think. Three Ugga-Duggas.
So the thermostat housing here is kind of an interesting setup, being that you've got this lifting eye that kind of plays into it all.
Yeah,
So-
if you're not familiar with Cummins, this is kind of a foreign concept.
Yeah, so this goes,
Well, for starters, you got that seal underneath the
Yeah.
thermostat.
so you've got a seal under the thermostat in the housing, then the thermostat. Then from Cummins, you've got this seal, which is kind of, two different thicknesses. So it goes in there behind the thermostat, and then your lifting eye, it's a good tight fit in your lifting eye, and then of course this will seal to the block. Now if you get the Interstate McBee gaskets, this is a real crappy setup. It's got some little rinky-dink sleeve that just goes through this and is supposed to kind of seal to the thermostat. No bueno at all.
Yeah, we were not impressed.
Yeah, we didn't even figure that would last to start up. So we got the OEM Cummins seal, and it's 100 times better. So just save yourself some headache, get the Cummins sealed, and I don't think you'll ever have any issue. But so that's how that all goes together, and we'll get it on here, and should be the last big part as far as this coolant system is concerned.
So in this one behind this lifting eye, get this funky looking check valve deal. We got a new one just in case. I'm not sure if there's anything that can go bad in that, but nonetheless, here we are. And that goes right there. Might have should have did that first. It's all right, Bub can handle it.
I like making things tough on ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good, that's what we like.
Too far?
No, I think it's good. Perfect.
All right, so what we got here is the next worldly innovation in hose clamping technology. So this is a heat shrink.
I don't think Bub's completely sold on this alien technology.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. But so this is a heat shrink sleeve used in place of a hose clamp. So stick it on there, I guess, get your hose in place, slide this down, heat shrink it. Okay, engine gets hot, you heat shrink it, it tightens up, engine gets hot, maybe it tightens up some more, I don't know. But we're gonna give it a shot, see how this works.
Yeah, I like it because it's going to give you a clean look.
Yeah, it will look good, I think. Hopefully everything doesn't leak like a sieve after the fact, but.
Well, if it does, hose clamps are easy enough to put on.
Yeah. So.
Of course, it may ruin our hose.
Yeah, so we'll give this a shot, see what happens.
Yeah, because like that hose, for instance, should never come off. It's not something you're going to be taking on and off. So.
Only thing I can see is this one, yeah, it's going to be hard to heat shrink all the way around, but.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is a cheap little hose. Those hose clamps are not as cheap as regular hose clamps, but all in all, this investment is pretty small. If it doesn't work out, we can always back out.
As thick as that is, we might need a better heat gun.
Not sold, huh? What do you think now?
Still hot.
Yeah, still hot.
Leave it alone. Let it cool off real good before we go yanking on it.
Well, I think we got to remember that us Neanderthals usually put our hose clamps on like 14 times tighter than they're supposed to be. Because like a factory hose clamp is just a little spring clip. And they don't normally leak, at least not, you know, until you start monkeying around with it.
Tighter is always better.
I don't know if that's true. But the point is that a hose clamp probably doesn't need to be as tight as what we normally would put it.
Maybe.
But we're going to find out. We're all going to find out together if this is any good.
Feels pretty snug.
Yeah, that sucker's not coming off of there. I'm sold. Yeah, that's not coming off. Whether or not it leaks, I don't know, but you ain't just gonna pull it off. All right, moving on. We can start putting our heater lines on here, heater core hose line deals. So we got these jewels straight off the eBay from
China.
Yeah, you could guess where. But we'd have to go back and look at the very first video, but best we can tell, we didn't even have heater core lines. Yeah, so we weighed our options on this. Fleece has an aftermarket kit with just straight hose all the way, but it is outrageously expensive. So we kind of put together the parts to build our own hoses, and that was pretty expensive too. We looked at just getting some used originals off eBay, and that was, you know, reasonable. But it's still going to cost about $100 just to get some old rusty lines. So you can get these off of eBay for $100. It's like $107 with the bracket. So we didn't have this either. So we'll see how they fit. They're supposed to be stainless steel. We didn't stick a magnet on it, but it looks close enough to me. So we're going to see if we can get these on there, how much tweaking we got to do. But that's what we got. It's the best we could do for the money anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That ought to be close enough to get us started anyway. We'll get the hoses on it and then we'll tighten it down. So for these hoses, we didn't get genuine Cummins part numbered hoses. We just got us a 90 off of the Amazon. This one happens to be AC Delco though. So we're just gonna cut this down until it's the same as the factory one. Probably about like that. And then we got plenty of straight hose for this bottom one because that's all it was anyway. A full-size heat gun would probably be a lot faster. I don't think we even own one anymore because honestly these little ones are so good. Easy to get in places. It's just not very fast. You like it right there?
I think so. See.
There we go. Well, I don't have anything bad to say about the eBay heater core lines.
No, they come out pretty good.
Yeah, can't complain about that. $100 stainless lines that actually fit. So now I guess we can go ahead and throw our starter in here, so we've got it. But before we put the starter in there, we probably ought to put our dipstick in. It's going to be a little bit harder to get to with that starter here. There we go.
Yeah, nothing to it.
Yeah, just needed a little lube.
Power Master Ultra Duty.
Yeah, so that's the high torque starter. Looks like everybody sells some version of it, but they look exactly the same, just rebranded. And that one came from O'Reilly. But if you like, Power Driven sells it, and it's you know, it's labeled something different besides Power Master. But they're all this black texture paint. It says Ultra Duty. The only thing different is this right here.
Technical difficulties, Holmes.
What the problem is,
Either this thing ain't rolled in right, or this bolt ain't long enough.
are they not all the same?
Maybe it's in the right spot. It just ain't long enough.
Oh yeah, I can see it. I guess we'll try it. I mean, that's the main reason we wanted to put the starter on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Easier than I thought.
Nothing but room in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gonna work good.
Yeah.
We just got a cap screwed on here for now, just so we don't have to deal with this hose. And that'll keep the dirt out of the motor. There we go. The Ultra Duty is in, with the exception of our last bolt. We got to get a longer bolt, of course. Not the same size, but we're going to leave it at that for now. So we're just about out of time for this weekend, but we got a lot done.
Yeah, we finally have, for the most part, a complete engine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about to the point where all we need to do is hook up fuel and a battery, and it will run.
Let's hook some fuel and battery up to this sucker.
Mm-hmm.
See what it'll do.
Yeah, but most importantly, we got our sweet blue valve covers on. Excited about that.
Yep, look good.
Yeah, so now y'all know what color the truck is going to be.
Yep.
We can't wait. We're excited.
And now that we finally, for the most part, got this engine build wrapped up, now we can get back to the truck.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, this time we promise for real. This is the last engine video.
yeah, no more engine videos. Next video will be back on the truck. We'll start going back together with the chassis, getting the running gear put underneath it. So it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll finally start moving towards building a fully functional truck, which is awesome.
Yeah, one step closer to getting this engine fired off.
Yeah, exactly. But still a lot of work ahead. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure and hit the like button. And if you're not a subscriber, we'd appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel. Talking about subscribers, our whole giveaway that we've been doing monthly, it's kind of led down a path that we really don't like the route that it's going. So with that being said, we're gonna kind of limit our giveaways to whether it be subscriber milestones, more important events with the channel. And hopefully, our plan is to be able to give away better stuff doing it that way as well. So we appreciate everybody that's subscribed so far, all the participation, comments, and the giveaways in the past. This is what we're going to do moving forward. And we appreciate y'all's support and subscribing to the channel and watching our videos. But that's going to do it for this one. We appreciate y'all watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.